but we'll make this session super interactive. Just to give a quick overview, we're gonna do some introductions, you know who everyone is on the call today, and then we'll move into a brief overview of different programs that our office supports and our student interns on this call support. And then we'll break out into breakout rooms and just have conversations where we can answer any of your questions and talk about kind of ways to get involved with the community, broadly speaking. All right, well, we can just start. I don't know if Hannah will be able to hear us, but we'll kind of just begin and then kind of see where things go. So to start, my name is Sophia Prey. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Civic Leadership Program Coordinator Paraprofessional. It's a long, kind of confusing title, but I help run all of the student programs at the Collaborative for Community Engagement. So also a long title, we call it the CCE for short. That's the office that helps students get connected with off-campus volunteer opportunities. We support faculty in doing engaged research courses, so getting to do classes out in the world and apply your knowledge to the community. And then we also work with community partners directly to make sure that we're able to help support their needs as a member of the community ourselves. So that's kind of a little bit about our office and what I do, but I'll have our interns introduce themselves. So maybe Maddie Shink, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, of course. I'm Maddie, she, her pronouns. I'm a sophomore at CCE, and I'm within the CCE co-op, which is like the student intern structure, and I run a program called Breakout, which you will be learning more about very soon. So I'll popcorn to the other Maddie.
Hello, I'm Maddie with an E. I'm a junior here at CC, she, her pronouns. I am the co-op co-director of the Bonner Fellowship, so I wear a couple different hats working with our coalitions, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and then I'm also a Bonner Fellow as well, and I've been doing some administrative and mentorship work as an intern with that program this year, which we'll also talk about a little bit later. And I'll popcorn to Jillian.
All right, hi, my name is Jillian. I'm a sophomore. I use she, her pronouns. My whole title is the co-op co-director of Community Engaged Scholars and Leaders, which is just a long way of saying I'm kind of the student liaison and the student director of the Community Engaged Scholars and Leaders programs, which we will be talking about later. And I also am involved with the co-op and the coalitions with Maddie and Maddie. So Cody, if you'd like to introduce yourself, I'll popcorn.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cody. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm actually not specifically affiliated with the CCE, but I work in the admission office as an admission counselor, and I'm also here just to support everybody else in any way that I can. So if you have any more general admission questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll totally help answer them. But yeah, trying to think, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all. We'd love to have all of our attendees introduce themselves as well. So we'll do a little bit more of an interactive session later, but for now, you can just share your name, your preferred pronouns, and where you are zooming in from today. That would be great. So maybe we could start with Mia, since you're the only face I see right now.
Yeah, I'm Mia. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm zooming in from my current college at Cambridge College, so I'm a transfer student.
Wonderful, thank you. And we can just popcorn maybe. So if anyone else wants to go, otherwise, Hannah, I'm glad you're able to connect. Do you mind introducing yourself next?
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm zooming in from Miami Beach, Florida. And yeah, I go by she, her pronouns. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Sophia, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm from Denver, Colorado. And it's nice to meet everyone.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Kasara, am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's right. My name's Kasara. I use she, her pronouns, and I am zooming in from Philadelphia.
Awesome. We got people all over. I love it. Thank you. Kelly, would you mind going next?
Hi everyone, I'm Kelly. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm zooming in from around Philly too.
Nice. Wonderful. And Anna, would you mind introducing yourself as well? Oh, okay. No worries. If you just want to introduce yourself via the chat, that would be great. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining. It's really exciting. We know that there's a mix of folks who are either committed and ready to come to CC and other folks who are still making their decisions. So hopefully the goals for today are really just to show you kind of the different options for ways to engage as students in the Colorado Springs community. So in Colorado Springs, it's a really awesome urban environment. It's a huge city, so pretty large, even compared to Denver. We actually have a larger population size, which is surprising because it's more of a spread out city. But we have a bunch of different community partners that our students are able to work with and our faculty in various different issue areas. And our office helps support those connections. So really the CCE's mission is to help create bridges between the Colorado College community and the Colorado Springs community. And so we do that in a variety of ways. And the best way for us to kind of explain what we do is show you a visual. So it's not just us talking at you. So I'm going to screen share, and then our student interns are going to explain the different pathways that we have specifically for students to get involved and engaged. So does that sound good? And then we'll do breakout rooms after that. Cool. And if there's any questions that pop up as we're going, feel free to put them in the chat, unmute. This is an informal session, and we want it to be as interactive and useful for you all as possible. So, all right, without further ado, let me figure out technology. All right, so I'm gonna actually pop this link in the chat. So if you want to follow along or have this document to refer back to after this, feel free to click on that link. But yeah, this is our Pathways to Engagement kind of brochure. So we'll be walking through different pathways. Starting with direct engagement, which Maddie is gonna kick us off with.
Yeah, thank you. So just to get us started, there's a lot of things that you can do to directly engage with the Colorado Springs community. Obviously, some of those things have been impacted by COVID this year, and I'll touch on some of those. But one of the main things is that the CCE advises over 20 student clubs. Some of those things include like a lot of K through 12 tutoring programs, CCE CC Refugee Alliance, as well as the Sunrise Movement and a lot of other really cool student clubs that you can get involved with. And so that's kind of one way that you can be kind of connected to the CCE is through those student clubs. Something I know a little bit more about is Breakout. So I mentioned earlier, I'm the assistant director of Breakout. So Breakout is engagement. And it's basically a program that has student service trips on Saturday. You said that I gotta go over block breaks and over spring break. This year we didn't have a spring break, but usually we offer an alternative spring break trip for students, and that can be a really fun experience, so I'm told. So basically what that involves is us reaching out to community partners, seeing where there's a need within Colorado Springs, and then showing up generally in pre-COVID times and just getting into the work. Usually it's a group of about 10 students supporting a community partner. It can be anything from a soup kitchen to we have, a partner called Concrete Couch. So we're going and we're working on like trail maintenance or, creating some public art or something like that, as well as different partners like the Catamount Institute, which works with students on environmental education and outdoor field trips. So there can be a really wide range of things that we do, and we like to call Breakout kind of the on-ramp for that reason, because it kind of lets you dabble in a lot of different issue areas and get to know what is best for you and what you like to do. And so that's something that I did my first year at CC was attend a lot of Breakout trips because it helped me get a good idea of what Colorado Springs has to offer, kind of, you know, explore different issue areas, and then figure out what I'm most passionate about. And so, yeah, I really, really recommend that for first year students and sophomores as well. Really, anyone can attend a breakout trip, but it's a great place to start. And a fun feature is also that you can see on the brochure here, students are able to kind of propose their own breakout trip. So it's not just me always creating the trips, it's students coming being like, hey, I have this really cool connection, or I've heard about this new, you know, this new partner or this new organization that we could partner with. And so that's a really fun way to get involved as well. And another layer to this that I'll add is that you can become a breakout leader. So you can be one of the student leaders who is, you know, taking your peers on these different breakout trips, which is really fun as well. So yeah, in terms of COVID stuff this year, we've had to definitely adapt because we can't have that same model of going in person and spending a few hours on a Saturday morning together. However, we've tried to make it work. We've got a wide variety of like virtual engagement things and kind of education-based things that we've done this year. One example I'll give is we did a suicide prevention training with Pikes Peak Suicide Prevention. That was really awesome to have in a virtual format. Other things we've done have been kind of on campus. So we've made, you know, tie blankets for Project Linus and other care kits type of things on campus. And then we'll just deliver the goods to our community partners. So that's kind of the way that we've been trying to stay COVID safe while still engaging with the community. So yeah, that is a little bit about Breakout. I hope that you all are interested, and you know, we have an email listserv that students can join, and you'll get like a weekly update once you're at CC, or if you're planning on joining us at CC. So yeah, that's all I've got about direct engagement.
Awesome. So another opportunity that you can get involved with at the CCE is community organizing. So that would be getting involved in a community campaign or an initiative or a project that's very collaborative. And we've started something called the Co-op this year, which is comprised of issue-based coalitions. And prior to this year, we had about 3 coalitions, but this past fall, we really hit the ground running and introduced 7 new coalitions, bringing us to 10 different groups. And it's been really exciting to just see this all pop up during COVID and in virtual spaces. And we're super excited to see that continue to grow over the next couple of years. Some of those coalitions, I'll go ahead and read them off since there's so many cool opportunities. We have K-12 education, youth organizing, racial equity, environment and ecology, health and accessibility, gender and sexuality, poverty and inequity, criminal justice, immigrant and refugee justice, and political advocacy. As I'm reading through those, it's still hard to believe that we have so many groups. But yeah, if any of those spark your interest, this is definitely another on-ramp, as Maddie was saying earlier. Essentially what these coalitions are is a monthly meeting where CC students come together with staff, faculty, and other community members. And what's really awesome is that these coalition spaces are completely student-led and organized. So we have a group of 10 student organizers who have really been building this entire program this year, which has been, again, amazing to see. So hopefully next year, as we've been laying the foundation this year, there will be opportunities to come to those meetings and just really hear about what's going on in Colorado Springs in relation to these different issue areas, and then some opportunities to get involved in some projects if that interests you. So it's a place for anyone of any interest, experiences, and capacities and time commitments. So many different opportunities there. Another opportunity for community organizing is a program called Public Achievement. And in this program, you work with local high school students at a place called Mitchell High School, and you help them kind of explore their passions and complete a capacity building project that they want to do. And you're just kind of an empowerment and support system for them, but a great opportunity to connect with some local youth and to, again, learn more about the community. So definitely a lot of opportunities there to get involved in collaborative projects.
Before I move on, are there any questions about this slide? Anything about direct community engagement or community organizing in general? Cool. All right. Well, if anything does come up, feel free to share in the next breakout section too.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and explain our civic leadership programs. which are long-term engagement programs that the CCE offers. There's 3 of them, and they're really, I guess, geared towards students who are interested in staying engaged in the long term. Like Maddie talked about on-ramps to the CCE, and those are super great ways to be involved. And also there are these programs that allow you to have connection to other students, to a cohort for your entirety of your college career. So the specific ones we have, the first one is the Community Engaged Scholars Program, which is oftentimes where most students pursue their interest in long-term engagement. It's open to anyone who's interested in committing to engagement for all 4 of their years. Sustained work with a nonprofit, work with multiple nonprofits. It's basically discovering your values of community engagement and figuring out how best you can work with partners in the community to, I guess, build the community and also grow within yourself. And there's also the Community Engaged Leaders Program, which is, I guess, the next step, so to speak, from the Community Engaged Scholars Program. So you can choose to stay in the Community Engaged Scholars Program for all 4 years, or 3 years. It's open to first semester sophomores and first years to apply. But Community Engaged Leaders is a 3-year program. It is a smaller cohort. It is comprised of sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and it is to work on a long-term capstone project. So the ultimate goal is to produce a capstone, which basically just means having a project that you've been working on surrounding community engagement, whether that's community engaged research, storytelling with community partners, I guess long-term commitment to a specific nonprofit, kind of whatever your interests are. So both of those are really great ways to be involved as an incoming student. And then there's the Bonner Fellowship Program, which is it's similar to the Community Engaged Leaders Program, but it is a paid program, and it connects you to a national network of other Bonners around the country. It is also a great way, similar to CEL, Community Engaged Leaders, to more deeply develop your partnership with a specific nonprofit and connect with other students on other campuses. And both the CEL and Bonner applications will be coming out in the spring for first years. So just a note on that. And yeah, I guess I'll just briefly talk about the Changemaker curriculum, which is open to students of all 3 of those programs, and honestly, any student who's interested in community engagement. And it's just a blockly program. It's throughout the whole year, but you go through a blockly progression of different workshops, and they focus on different community issues, theories of social change, and just core themes and values of activism and engagement.
Yeah, thank you, Jillian. Yeah, so we definitely highly encourage anyone who might be interested in exploring community engagement for the entire time that you're at CC to join the Community Engaged Scholars Program. That's kind of our entry level program. And then it also helps you join a network of other students who are doing engagement work, and then helps put you on our radar too, our staff and intern radar, so we can kind of send out relevant opportunities that might connect with your interests and whatnot. So it's a really awesome program. It's called CES, if you want to look that up when you do join, or even apply earlier before you get to CC. But yeah, in terms of community engaged learning and research, if direct engagement doesn't seem like quite something you would be interested in, or if you're not quite interested in community organizing, then community engaged research might be for you. Students sometimes will be interested in all of these different pathways, and sometimes very much just want to focus on one. And there is no judgment or right way to engage at CC. So I just want to put that out there and say that anything that sparks your interest is awesome and worth exploring, but there's definitely no pressure on needing to explore all of these pathways either. But if engaged research is seems kind of cool to you, then we have 2 kind of primary pathways for that. So the first would just be enrolling in an engaged research block. One advantage of the block plan is that you can do courses that work with a community partner. So for example, actually, I am a CC alum and I was an anthropology major. And for one of my classes, we partnered with the National Forest Service to do archaeology surveys and help them kind of survey new land that hadn't been surveyed before to understand if there was any historical preservation worth implementing. And so that's an example of a really cool engaged research block that I got to do. They're usually fully paid by the academic department. Another example is if you're maybe leaning towards STEM or interested specifically in mathematics, you could do a statistics course that instead of just number crunching for the sake of learning how to crunch numbers, you actually take real data from a community partner site or an organization, and then you apply that you're learning in that class to that data, and you create a report and whatnot, and then you're able to give that report to that community partner. So then it's kind of a mutual relationship in the fact that you are providing a service for them while you're also learning. So that's kind of what engaged research classes can look like. If you're interested in independent projects, then we'd encourage you to check out Peak Inquiry. And that is a program where our office, the CCE, ask community partners about what their current needs are. And then the community partners will submit a form that says, hey, we really could use support with a project that looks like this. And all of the projects are centered around a question. So how might we better understand the environment where we are building a public park? Like, how could we assess the water quality to make sure that it's healthy enough to restore the riparian ecosystem? That's a real question that's been asked. And then students who are interested in that can sign up for that project and then take it on as a kind of extracurricular project. So it's a really awesome setup. We have a huge variety of different projects. We have film ones, photography, other art-based ones, science ones, writing ones. Like, any interest you could have is probably reflected in those. So that's a really cool option too for kind of getting to work with community partners through a specific project. And the time frame for those really varies. So it could be like a 3-week project, it could be a year-long one, really depends on the scope of work. Yeah, so that's kind of our spiel about all the different pathways that we have. Are there any questions about these 2 slides before we move on? All right, no worries. I know it's probably information overload. So I'm just gonna show you one last thing, and then we're gonna break out into some smaller groups. But in general, our office does offer a bike share program. So in case you're worried about transportation, we do have bikes that are available for renting if you want to get to a community partner. We also know which community partner sites are close and which ones are farther away. So we're happy to help you kind of figure out a way to engage that is accessible. We also have a huge library if you ever want to read about civic engagement. We have a kitchen, outdoor patio, and conference room. So right now we're working on a schedule where some students can rent our space to have some study time during COVID. Our interns are allowed to do that. And then we also have digital resources. So if you're looking for ways to engage remotely or just want to learn more about the opportunities that we offer, all of it is on our website. And I'll drop the link to our student hub, which kind of breaks up information in a hopefully more accessible way. So, and then lastly, I'll just mention that we have a small but mighty staff team. Just one person to point out in particular is Nikki Sosa. She's a community partnerships coordinator. So what's cool about her job is that from 9 to 5, she focuses on building up relationships with community partners in the Colorado Springs region, which means that she is a walking database of information. So any students who are like, I want to learn more about, like, here's my specific passions, here's my specific interests, or I have no idea where to begin, help me. She's an awesome go-to person for that. So just wanted to highlight her role in our office as well. But yeah, that's our office and what we do. We're going to break out into 2 groups with interns in both to just kind of answer your questions and walk through kind of any engagement pathways that you might be interested in exploring more. So, and then we'll meet back at about 3:50, just so we have 10 minutes to kind of unpack any bigger questions and end the session. All right. Awesome. So I just opened up breakout rooms. I'm going to pause the recording. How is everyone's conversation?
I was in the middle of a conversation in a breakout room with somebody. Yes, I've been.
Yeah. Does anyone have any highlights about things that you talked about in your breakout room sessions that you'd like to share in the main space? Or questions that came up that would be helpful to address?
One of the things that we touched on a little bit was talking about how like working with the CCE is like a great opportunity to like collaborate with maybe your major, like your academic interests, but also an opportunity to do something totally different from your academic interests. And that's like totally an awesome possibility. So just kind of talking about that, how you can integrate or do something totally new and kind of get all sorts of experiences. So it was fun.
Yes, I love that. Totally. Yeah, especially with the block plan, community engagement is really nice in the sense that it can be completely different from whatever you're fully immersed in. And that can provide like a really nice little escape or something different too. Yeah, that's very true.
And I'll also add too, just really briefly, that the block plan is really fast paced and you go from one class to the next in 3.5 weeks. And community engagement is a really great way to have kind of like a grounding, sustaining thing for the entire year, your entire 4 years at CCE.
Yes, that is such a good point, Jillian. Yeah, I mentioned as a CC alum, I'm still working with the nonprofit that I started volunteering with as a student. So it's something that's kind of fun. And so I've been with them for the past like 4 years teaching dance. And yeah, it was a really nice way to kind of have a consistent community outside of the Colorado College community for sure. Do you all have other like stories, I guess, interns that you want to share about kind of ways that you've gotten, like what kinds of work you all have been able to do off campus or with off campus folks?
I can go. Oh, you can go, Manny. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Eyes like
staring at each other. And then one thing that I did share is one thing I love about breakout is that I always get like students being like, oh yeah, I went on this one breakout trip and I haven't seen them at breakout in a while. And it's like, because they've been doing their own engagement, now they've just like dived into, and committed to that organization and are like spending their time there. And that's like super rewarding to see that we like were able to connect them to a community partner and they were able to like try it out, but there's no like consequences, if it's maybe not a good fit, or if it is a good fit, then they can really just like go into it. And so that's just really lovely to see. So that's all I was going to say.
Yeah. I love that.
I was just going to share a little bit about the nonprofit that I've been doing work with because I love them, and every chance I get, I mention them because I want people to work with them. But I grew up in Colorado Springs, so I had a connection with them from high school and have been very grateful to be able to continue what is now, I think, going to be like a 7-year relationship throughout the years. So that's crazy to think about that I've known them that long. But it's a nonprofit downtown. And another great thing about Colorado Springs is that a huge hub of nonprofits is downtown, which is literally a 5-minute walk from campus, which is super awesome and really accessible, like by bike or walking. So they're a nonprofit downtown called Colorado Springs Teen Court, and they are rooted in a mission of restorative justice instead of the regular juvenile justice system. It's very narrative-based, story-based, and is all about kind of peer empowerment from fellow youth in Colorado Springs. So just super awesome to be able to do work with them and kind of center my Bonner work in previous years. And we'll hopefully be able to go back once we can hopefully return to some in-person engagement as well to see the teens again. Colorado Springs has great teenagers, so if you're interested in working with youth, it's a great place to be.
Totally. Yeah, just in case anyone's curious, we are, as of right now, CC's hosting several vaccination clinics for current students. So we are expecting that next year there will be more in-person options for engagement. Obviously, it's very dependent on the population that you might be working with and their kind of standards of what they're comfortable with. Though Colorado Springs, there are vaccines that are accessible. So that is definitely exciting for, as Maddie says, like the return to in-person is much anticipated and wanted. So we're hoping that there'll be some more flexible options next year for that. Yeah.
Yeah, just to share a little bit about my community engagement work. So for my first year, I got really involved with the Office of Sustainability, which is another office on campus. It's actually like right next to the CCE. And I did some work with sustainability reporting for the college and was able to count those hours towards the Community Engaged Scholars Program. So I want to emphasize that with these programs that I guess you don't need to think of it as like just another time commitment. It's really important to understand that you can bridge a lot of passions and things that you're doing. I say counting for hours, but obviously it's not about meeting some requirements, it's about doing something that you're passionate about. And then this year I am in the process of connecting more with a nonprofit that was formerly called the Colorado Springs Food Rescue, but is now called Food to Power. So yeah.
I love that point, Jillian. Yes, completely. Yeah, it should be integrated in everything you're doing. And definitely a lot of students come to us and realize that like their primary engagement passions are on campus. And that's awesome. Like we have so many amazing staff teams and offices on campus. So if that's where you want to spend your time, like admissions, like Cody, I know spent a lot of time working with admissions. Like that's wonderful. You get to meet people through that and serve the community through that realm too. So there's definitely options for that too. Like some other things that come to mind, the Butler Center, which is kind of the hub for, you know, all sorts, they're the hub for everything, but definitely a lot of like multicultural support in terms of they do advise student organizations and have a lot of different programming related to exploring your identity and how that relates to social change and what it means to be a person and live and connect that with academics and all of those things. And so we do have students who love working with them. Also the Wellness Resource Center, they have peer-to-peer support interns who help with health related questions and navigating resources. There's also START, which is focused on supporting peers who've experienced like sexual violence and gender-based violence. And so there's a lot of different kind of peer support models on campus that people can get involved with, but also just a lot of offices that are always looking for more people to support. So yeah, I encourage you all. We have a bunch of different options on our student hub, which is the link that I just dropped in the chat. So if you are like interested in just learning more about all of the things that we're talking about here, you can go on that. We also talk about different kinds of funding resources too. So CC has a great amount of resources for kind of receiving funding for going to for doing engaged research projects, but then also maybe if you want to get paid for your engagement work, we'll post paid engagement opportunities there as well. We'll have options for if there's a really amazing community event happening and you don't have the funds to get there or transportation, then we have an access to engagement fund that the CCE supports. So you can apply for that. We have mini grants that our office supports. So if there's a project for a nonprofit or org you're working for and you want supplies for it, then you can apply for that. This is all sorts of information, but hopefully like you can get to CC's campus if you do choose to come here and like be ready to go and be like, I know who to contact. It's the CCE. They have all the things. So that's I hope like if you walk away with anything, it's so we're here to help support you in whatever your engagement looks like. And yeah, as Maddie and Jillian shared, like their paths are all very different, and they're working with our office too. So they're super engaged people who are experts in this and are also going to be on campus next year. So definitely, and I don't mean to speak for them, but you already have contacts too if you want to kind of connect with them one-on-one and learn more about it. But yeah, that was a big kind of ramble rant at the end there, but yeah, any final questions or things before we wrap up?
I just want to add really quick that I can drop my email in the chat if any of you would like to continue these conversations, and that would be helpful.
Awesome. All right, well, that concludes our session. If you do have any questions, we'll stick around for a little bit and answer them, but thank you for attending, and for those watching this recording, thanks for sticking with us, and have a great rest of your day.